We'll go ahead and get started. Work sessions are an opportunity for board members to discuss issues informally with staff and invited guests. The board encourages members of the public to attend work sessions and listen to the discussions, but there is generally no opportunity for public comment. Members of the public wishing to address the board are welcome to do so during the board's regularly scheduled meetings held twice monthly. First is the agenda review. Any questions on our agenda this evening? Okay, how about looking forward to May 6th? See the rolling agenda. We've got April 15th canceled. Of course, tomorrow we have our county electeds meeting out at the fairgrounds at 5. Yeah.
March 18th also.
Yeah. And March 18th is, okay, March 18th is canceled as well. Those are both work sessions. Commissioner Banks?
When are we forecasted to see any results or any discussion regarding the fairgrounds strategic planning process? What is that?
I thought we had
I feel
talked
like
about
I
that.
think we just talked.
We just, yeah. Wasn't that gonna be next month?
Yeah, I think.
Gail is waiting on some information from the fair board to provide back to them,
Okay.
and then they will be coming before your board once to revisit the conversation.
Okay.
I did think that it was on the roll, or on the.
I thought we were having-
I thought we had it on there.
So,
Work session to be a part of the meeting. Yeah, we have big on that part. We just did a work session in February at 18.
We'll figure out when.
Okay.
Yeah, I was just curious.
Yeah.
Any other questions, comments on the rolling agenda? Commissioner Thompson? Anything? No. Okay, we'll move on to the next item, which is the end of 2026 session update. And Amanda Ravenchuk, our management and policy analyst, has been very, very busy.
I'm able to take a nap. No naps. No naps.
Welcome.
Chair, members of the board, thank you for having me. So this session, as you know, concluded Friday evening. CFM, our state affairs folks, are working on an end of session report that we should have in the next week or so for you all, kind of outlining more of the specifics and kind of getting into the nitty gritty of the stuff that we have been tracking. So I just kind of have a general overview. I also listened in on was it Friday and Monday, AOC had their steering committee meeting, so I kind of listened in, and it seemed like the consensus was generally that counties fared pretty well this session. There were lots of concerns in terms of funding hits here and there. The state was looking at their budget deficit, but counties did not take the brunt of those hits, which is really good. There was the disconnecting, so there's kind of two components when the state was looking at their budget and how they resolved. Was the disconnecting some of the state's tax code from the federal code, and that keeps around 300 million in revenue to the state that otherwise would have been lost by replicating the federal tax cuts. And then the other portion of that was several budget rebalancing bills that are largely, well, estimated to close the budget deficit in that second piece, and then largely through keeping vacant positions open and slashing agency budgets, for supplies and stuff like that. So we were concerned and tracking some big ticket items related to services. And from what we're seeing, those didn't take big hits, but we're continuing to look at that, and we'll let you know if there's anything of concern. And most importantly, the big priority bill that we are tracking, the TLT bill, HB 4148 passed. It had 40 yes votes in the House and 23 yes votes in the Senate, which is really big, and really speaks to Reed Ford's work and relationship with our state reps, and just continuing to push that and move that forward. And so where it landed was the 50-50 split, which is effective on January 1st of next year. And so there's just a few components. I'll kind of do some overview. The city and county services part in terms of how funds can be used for that 50% portion. It does clarify that it includes both emergency services and non-emergency services. funded by city, county, or special district in lieu of a city or county. So that means if you're wanting to push the funds to like a special district or something like that, it just kind of clarifies that
Like
that's
what we're gonna
allowed.
be talking about.
Right, right.
And then in terms of funding that goes towards tourism, that portion now includes the resiliency grants for small businesses and restaurant and lodging industry. That was kind of a point of concern. They didn't end up doing the minority report, and that kind of stayed in the bill. And then also that it can be applied to unexpended TLT revenues. So that would be starting January 1st of 2027. It also requires local governments with TLTs to file a report every 2 years. That's going to start next year, kind of just in terms of how it's pretty general in terms of how revenues are spent. It's not super expensive. And then also entities receiving local TLT revenues under an agreement with the local government need to submit a biennial report, but to that local government saying how they're spending that funding. And then it adds a study requirement. So LRO will be kind of taking all of the reports that cities and counties will be submitting. They're also doing a study that they'll be presenting to the legislature. It says no later than September 15th of 2034. So there's some time for that work to happen. So we'll see how that goes. Do you have any questions or any
Well, you
kind of
mentioned
notes
it.
for TLT?
I know you mentioned it. When does it take effect, the 50/50?
January.
January 1st, okay.
Yeah, so that's why we'll have a conversation with your board about the rate reduction and the timing of that and the amount of it, because the rate reduction would apply to the 2 cents that your board just approved. And if it's dollar, what we're looking for is $4 reduction based upon the 50/50 revenues. And so we'll be coming back to your board in the next month or two. There'll be a work session items so that we can talk that. But since the 50/50 is not operational until January 1st, we have a little time to kind of work through some of the details. So,
Well, I know,
and it'll work better for the lodging providers, because it takes a lot of work for them when we change the rate too. And we gave them a lot of lead time last time, so we will give them a lot of lead time this time also. But we had changed it January 1st, so that's kind of an intuitive day to have that happen. So.
well, I know we patted each other on the back last week, but I thought, this is worth reiterating that Clatsop County took the lead on this. And you were down there several times meeting with Chair Nathanson. To have this at the second session that this was in front of legislatures, it's pretty impressive to get this kind of result. So
It's definitely a team sport.
Yeah.
It was heavy lifting, but it got done, so.
Commissioner Thompson?
Thank you, sir. My perception is Orla worked to convince our local businesses. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Orla worked to convince our local transient occupancy businesses that government was their enemy, that local governments did not care about them and would exploit them mercilessly. That was, I think, not the case ever. I'd like us to think about how to formalize a group, an advisory group of our transient lodging operators so that we can confer thoughtfully and refute those assertions so that they don't come at us again in the same way, because they've been a very powerful lobbying entity, and I don't expect them to take this lying down. The bill almost got stopped at the very end by the addition of those resiliency grants. Any excuse would do. So I hope that we are going forward to reach out to our local community businesses and involve them in a thoughtful way in dialogue with us and everybody else who's involved with that industry, so that the next time we're at the legislature dealing with this, because I think we will be, we're there more as community and less as perceived adversaries. Thank you, Chair.
Yeah, thank you, Commissioner Thompson. And I will note that these discussions are already taking place. You've met with David Reed, met with others.
We'll be meeting with the 3 DMOs.
Yeah.
So.
I was frustrated to see multiple TLT bills come forward in this short session. I feel like it might have muddied the waters a little bit for us, considering that this wasn't our original goal with the 50-50 split. And though I'm very excited that we have more flexibility, I was hoping that it would have been our original idea. I mean, I think that it would have probably alleviated a lot of pressure for us here, and just in regards to our emergency services and other infrastructure needs. But taking it as a small win,
Yeah.
and I have a feeling I hope the conversation continues for even further flexibility for us. Hopeful.
Yeah, this is a start.
Yeah, it's a start.
It's a start,
But granted, prior to 2003, it was 100%.
right?
Yeah.
Right?
This one's still waiting on a signature, right?
From the governor, yeah. I'd say at this point, well, we're not.
Yeah. I just wasn't sure if that happened.
Yeah, I would say there's like a few that she's signed, but a lot of them are pending, and that it takes a long time for her to.
Anything else that you want to discuss on the session?
I have a few other highlights if you'd like,
Yeah.
unless there's any other CLT related.
Sure, yeah.
Um,
More highlights.
Yay! In regards to transportation funding, so the referendum to appeal the recent transportation tax fee and fee increases was moved to the May ballot, Sorry. ODOT is able to hold off on their layoffs during the next 18 months until legislators work towards sustainable funding for the next session. Looking at that ahead, and then part of that was just reallocation of some transportation funding to cover current deficit of ODOT's operational and maintenance work. The industrial symbiosis bill passed, and CLATSOP is one of the 4 pilot communities that Business Oregon will be providing technical assistance for with industrial symbiosis efforts, so that's pretty exciting. And then a surprise kind of towards the end was funding for fairgrounds. In the program or procedures bill, it included removing the cap on lottery funds to the county fair account beginning in July of next year. So it'll allow for the full 1% of lottery revenues to be transferred annually. And so I know we discussed this before, and it's estimated to be an annual increase for Clatsop County's fairgrounds around 80 to 100,000. So it's very exciting.
Super.
I would like to know how much timber revenues are reduced with the 30% additional set aside, to see if that is enough for them to offset. I mean, that's great. I think to have additional revenues going to the, anything, your budget is so small, anything helps. But I'd just be curious to see how much of a deficit is either still left, or if they're not in it, if it doesn't make the deficit.
Okay. That's it for the highlights. Do we have any other comments or questions?
It's quite exciting to watch. I had the opportunity to be in Salem for one of the votes, and it was up on the screen in one of the senator's offices. It was kind of like a Super Bowl watch party,
Yeah,
but a little nerdier. So yeah, it was fun to watch.
that's all right.
Well, we appreciate you being down there. Yeah, good news.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Amanda. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, we'll move on to, speaking of transient lodging tax, annual distribution of discretionary transient lodging tax rural fire districts.
Chair Pruitt, members of the board, I had an opportunity this morning to meet with Fire Defense Board Chief Donaldson, as well as Chief Reckman from Cannon Beach, talking about consolidated 911, but we also talked about the first year of the TLT distribution. As you recall, when we worked together to increase the transient lodging tax, the countywide, by 2 cents, part of that notion was it is for public safety, broadly defined. And included in that was the rural fire districts that don't have access to the ARPA dollars originally, which we distributed, but they also don't have access to the transient lodging tax money. And so we had been working with the Fire Defense Board to get updated numbers for the call volumes for the rural districts. And so at the top of the page that I gave you, this summarizes what the 2025 rural calls were for the various Clatsop County fire districts. And so there was, 3,100 calls total during 2025, and those were of all different kind of ilk. Astoria, you see with the zero, it doesn't mean that they didn't have calls, they just didn't have any rural calls. And so their calls were all within the city of Astoria. But you have some city districts that are also rural districts. So they wear two different hats. And so some of those are receiving rural calls also. So since the transient lodging tax 50/50 bill doesn't go into effect until January 1st, we had talked with them about $100,000 distribution for the first year, which is similar to one of the distributions that they had last time, and they thought that was a good place to start. We will take another look at it next year and see, if that can be expanded. But based on the $100,000 and using the similar formula that we used with the ARPA dollars of having a base amount that goes to every agency, because if you go just by volume calls, some of the small agencies don't get very much. So 27.5% would be distributed through the base formula. Then the other 72.5% would be distributed through the volume. And then the highlighted is where every special district lands. When you look at these, you would say, well, some of these are not big numbers. These are huge numbers for these rural fire agencies. Just as an example, Hamlet's is about 15% of their annual budget. So this one contribution of 5,600 is 15% of their budget. So these are meaningful amounts, and they've been doing a lot of different investments with them. I did put a little summary of what some of those investments were with the ARPA dollars. They bought equipment and upgrades for the fire engines, purchased all-terrain vehicles so they could access beach access points and provide services on the beach. Replacing command and quick response vehicles, chainsaws, PPE, personal protective equipment, uniforms, thermal drone. They purchased a used fire engine to help meet a grant. Ventilation fans, cardiac monitors. I mean, it's all of the things that allow these first responders to show up ready with whatever the challenge is. And so they have been using it. They value the partnership with the county. And so what I would like to do is send an email tomorrow to the fire chiefs so that they can plug these numbers in their budget for next year. And I've only spoken to the Fire Defense Board chief and to Chief Reckman, but they're very familiar with this methodology. And I think that they're just happy to be in the mix. And the goal is to make this an annual contribution. So you can imagine some of these can actually finance some improvements. And I'm thinking about the LC Vine Maple Fire Station. They can actually finance some long needed improvements to their fire station by paying debt service with what the county's giving them, which is huge. They don't have that flexibility now, which is why Fire Station 2 hasn't been improved and it's not being used to its full capability. So I just wanted to share this with your board, see if you had any concerns or questions. And then if you're okay, I would communicate with the fire chiefs tomorrow so that they can budget for it.
I'm okay with it. Commissioner Bangs?
I fully support it. I am curious to know, and I think this is for future conversations for us as a county, of how many of these calls are local versus, tourism basically based.
And we don't,
Because
yeah,
We did that number, didn't we?
well, we know in some instances and in others we don't know. And so we have a new CAD system and RMS system, so hopefully some of that data can be a little bit more available to us. The sheriff tends to know, but we don't always know on the fire side. So
it would just be beneficial in conversations further with the state regarding flexibility for us in funding. 'Cause I'm just looking at our major highways, Napa, Lewis and Clark, Cannon Beach, those are our major highways right there. And they're receiving the brunt of, the mass influx and exodus every summer.
yeah. And we will be talking about that tomorrow night too, regarding the 911 consolidation discussion, because there is a lot of pressure coming in off of 26, 30, 101. And when there is an accident, obviously communications in these rural areas is really important, and then communication to the actual provider, first responder. And in some of those areas is where we have some of the biggest challenges, and not surprisingly, it's some of these small fire agencies that are the first responders. And these are all volunteer fire agencies for the most part. And so, so yes, I mean, we do need to know, because there is a lot of pressure being put on by the same pressures that are being put on the sheriff's office, the jail, and the whole enforcement side. So,
And there's large corridors of complete cell darkness that you can't.
and you're going to hear a lot about that tomorrow. So.
Yeah, it'll be great. That's a good conversation.
Any other comments, questions?
I guess, I know that, that I think with none of these numbers, have we ever talked really about response times. And that's something that the advisory committee is working on. And so I hope that that'll be something that we can introduce.
Yeah, I think we are going to be working through an EMS assessment process, and response times will be part of that. And what I see is that there's going to be a merging of the EMS response time conversation with the 911 consolidation conversation, because they're all really interrelated.
Absolutely.
Any other comments, questions? Ms. Banks?
I mean, I don't know, this is kind of just a side comment, not really having to do with this conversation fully, but with our relationship with the community college, is there any way we can support furthering education for volunteers or in some sort of partnership? Because I just, I hear that fire bell from my house every day, multiple times a day in the summer. And often it's our teenagers that are volunteers that are, and then we have our core volunteer group, but I just, and I'm thinking of communities like in South County, Commissioner Thompson's area, where there's more sparse volunteer pool to draw from. Like, how can we, I guess, inspire interest to pursue a career in volunteerism? I'm not even sure how to phrase that, but.
Well, I think we can work with the fire chiefs and see, if there's something that we can do, that the community college can do to kind of collaborate with them. Because there's a lot of things that they are doing now, but there may be things we can do to assist them. Part of what we hope that comes out of the 911 discussion to tomorrow is this working group that includes the fire chiefs, the rural fire chief representatives. And then through that, I think there's probably going to be a list of things that we can all help each other with. Because right now, on the 911 side, it's two separate systems. On the fire side, geography separates them, which dispatch system that they're using separates them. So we're gonna have a lot of opportunity to kind of rethink how we're doing, the entire thing. And I know that, there's been discussions at various times regarding mergers of all the of some of the fire agencies, because there's just a lot. So you're competing for volunteers, equipment. And so I think those are things that aren't gonna happen now, because we already have too much going through the pipe right now. But eventually there will be consolidation discussions, so.
Well, good work. Yeah,
Okay, thank you.
and we don't have anything else on our work session, so we've got some time to kill before we start our regular meeting at 6. The Board of Commissioners, as the governing body of Clatsop County, all county service districts for which this body so acts, and as the Clatsop County Local Contract Review Board, is now meeting in regular session. All rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I want to welcome everybody here this evening. Clerk of the board, can we have the roll call, please? Here?
Here.
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 I'm here. I can't hear the clerk of the board if she has her mic.
Uh-oh. Have an audio issue.
Thank you.
Can you hear it, Commissioner Thompson?
No, sir, but I'm here.
Okay. We'll work on that.
Okay, you can hear me now?
Now I can.
Okay, great. So we had an opportunity to review the agenda during our work session, and then we also looked at the rolling agenda through May. Do we have any questions or comments? Ready for a motion?
Sorry, real quick. I would like to say that on March 25th, I will probably be absent. I'll be traveling that day.
Okay.
So.
Thank you, Commissioner Wakua. Any other comments on the agenda?
My birthday, so I.
Oh,
It'll be.
Commissioner Webb's birthday. You're going to miss Commissioner Webb's birthday.
Oh, you can travel with me if you'd like.
All right, ready for a motion?
I move to approve.
Second.
Moved and seconded to approve the agenda as presented. All those in favor signify with an aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Okay, motion carries. First item is a proclamation, National Tsunami Awareness Week, and Jen Munson, Emergency Management Coordinator. Come on down. Welcome, Jen.
Good evening, Commissioners, and thank you for considering the proclamation this evening. I'd like to wish you a happy and a safe Tsunami Awareness Week. As you may know, this week was designated by NOAA, the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, and this is about preparedness and safety. What we know is that communities can reduce their risk of tsunami impact by cultivating a culture of preparedness, and that's what we at Clatsop County Emergency Management try to do. Pieces of that culture entail the practice of safe evacuation, and it's really an opportunity for us to engage loved ones about their own disability evacuation plans, especially those that may have disabilities that may impair mobility or understanding of what safety means during evacuation. It's also an opportunity to reach out to neighbors who may experience language barriers that may also need help understanding what safe evacuation means. Another opportunity we look at this week is a chance to update your contact information in Clatsop Alerts, which of course enhances resiliency not just when we speak of tsunamis, but other disasters as well. Resiliency also means recovery from disaster. And I'd like to take a moment to thank one of our volunteers, Jackie Sanchez, who is incredible. She is an asset like no other. When we talk about resiliency and recovery in Clatsop County, that is for community organizations active in disaster, and she's an excellent leader and role model to us all. So thank you for helping us cultivate a culture of preparedness in Clatsop County and for considering the proclamation this evening.
Thank you very much, Jen. Thank you for your leadership. And Jackie, thank you for all you're doing in the community. Do we have any comments, questions? Are we ready for a motion?
I move to approve the resolution and order proclaiming March 24th through 30th, 2026 to be National Tsunami Preparedness Week and authorize the chair to read and then sign the proclamation.
I'll second.
Moved and seconded to approve the resolution and order proclaiming March 24th through 30th, 2026 to be National Tsunami Preparedness Week and authorize the chair to read then sign the proclamation. All those in favor signify with an aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Okay, motion carries. In the matter of proclaiming March 24th to the 30th, 2026 to be Tsunami Awareness Week. Whereas National Tsunami Preparedness Week is a nationwide coordinated effort sponsored by the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, or NOAA, each March to encourage Americans to prepare for tsunamis. And whereas this year marks the 62nd anniversary of the Great Alaska Earthquake and Tsunami, which caused tremendous damage and a loss of life on the Oregon coast. And whereas a major earthquake associated with the Cascadia subduction zone, which generated strong ground shaking and destructive tsunami, was last recorded in the year 1700 and has an average reoccurrence of every 300 years. And whereas investing in the preparedness of individuals, families, businesses, homes, and local communities can and does save lives and property and lessens the impact of a disaster such as earthquake and tsunami. And whereas this event aims to increase public awareness concerning the importance of disaster preparation and to persuade individuals to act. Now, therefore, be it hereby resolved that the Clatsop County Board of Commissioners does hereby proclaim March 24th through the 30th, 2026 as National Tsunami Awareness Week in Clatsop County, and we invite all community members to join in this observance by encouraging all citizens and businesses to develop their own emergency preparedness plan and work together toward creating a more prepared society. Dated this 11th day of March, 2026, Clatsop County Board of Commissioners. Thank you very much,
Thank you.
Jen. Appreciate all you're doing, and please pass along our appreciation to Justin Gibbs as well. All right, business from the public. This is an opportunity for anyone to give a 2-minute presentation about any item on the agenda, except for public hearings or any topic of county concern that is not on the agenda. Clerk of the board, are there any members of the public signed to speak remotely?
No, there are not.
All right. And I do have Brad Peitzik. If you could come up and state your name and address for the record, and you'll have 2 minutes to speak. Welcome, Brad.
Thank you. My name is Brad Peitzik. I live at 529 Claskanine and here in Astoria. Good evening, commissioners. My name, as I said, is Brad Peitzik, and I'm following up on the public comment I delivered several weeks ago regarding veteran representation in Clatsop County. And as you can see, I brought some friends today. At that time, I shared my concern that a dismissive remark made by Commissioner Webb pointed to something larger, that the county may be more disconnected from its veteran population than it realizes. Veterans make up roughly 10% of Clatsop County, and the challenges they face are not abstract. They are measurable, well-documented, and in many cases more severe than those faced by the general population. Veterans experience higher rates of chronic health issues, disproportionate levels of homelessness, significant and persistent mental health concerns, elevated suicide risk, and the kind of isolation that comes from losing the community, identity, and structure that military service once provided. These are not small gaps. They are systemic vulnerabilities that require consistent attention. I want to thank you again for your ongoing effort to hire a second full-time VSO. That position is essential, and I continue to support that investment fully. I'm hoping tonight to learn whether there has been any progress on the hiring process and whether the commission has had the opportunity to review the concerns I raised in my previous comment. I also want to reiterate my recommendation that the county consider forming a Veteran Advisory Council. This would not be a political body, but a practical one, made up of veterans and veteran serving professionals who can provide consistent input, identify gaps early, and strengthen the county's connection to a community that often goes unheard. I'm not seeking a seat on such a council, but I'm willing to help identify qualified members if the commission chooses to move forward. I continue?
Yeah, go ahead.
My goal is simple, to ensure that Clatsop County's veteran population is represented, respected, and included in decisions that affect them. I appreciate your time, and I look forward to hearing what steps have been taken since my last comment. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Brad. Thank you for your service, and thank you, all veterans that are here, for your service. We did have a good update at our last work session from both Amanda Rapicek, our management and policy analyst, and from Carl Wiley, who was talking about the process of hiring the VSO. And it sounds like it's a certification issue, that's going to be Sam that's going to step in to be the second VSO, and then we would be hiring another administrative assistant, correct?
Yes, Chair Crowley, members of the board, what we heard was just that, is that there is the budget to add the second VSO this year, which they're working on right now, and then that will be fully funded next year. So there'll be 2 VSOs and then the administrative person also. So, and that's in the works right now.
Yeah.
So
That was good, and I appreciate all Carl has done. I mean, he has needed help, and I'm glad that we're getting him help. Yeah, no, it was a good update. All right, do we have anyone else here that would like to participate in public comment? Okay, we'll go ahead and close public comment at this time and move on to the consent calendar. There are 2 items on the consent calendar. Have any questions or comments? Ready for a motion?
I move to approve.
I'll second.
Moved and seconded to approve the consent calendar. All those in favor signify with an aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Okay. Consent calendar is approved. We'll move on to Commissioner reports and Commissioner Thompson.
Thank you, sir. I want to speak about wealth tonight. I want to speak about the wealth of the community. I've been working in Clatsop County on emergency preparedness resilience issues since 2008. There's just a whole bunch of people who've been doing that as well. I'm Terry and Alice in Seaside and Karen in Astoria and Karen in Seaside and people all over the county for all of these years, the community emergency response teams, the Medical Reserve Corps, the volunteer, the VOAD folk, the ham radio operators, the hams who maintain the repeater system in Clatsop County. I mean, for me, that's the wealth of the community that day after day, year after year shows up to work on resilience for their neighbors so that people can be safe, be resilient, and recover in various kinds of emergencies. So I just want to appreciate them and give them a shout out. The other kind of wealth that I'm dealing with is the wealth of the counties all over Oregon. You remember that I'm the treasurer, and I took time away from testifying in the Capitol about transient occupancy when my colleagues, Commissioner Chuck and Commissioner Shepard, stayed in the building to work that bill when it was, I would say, snagged. I went back over and worked on treasurer things because what AOC is going to do is conduct a study under the aegis of Eco Northwest to look at the financial situation, the wealth of counties all over Oregon. There's also a finance arm of AOC, the audit and investment committee, that's going to look at the wealth that's in each county so as to look at what kinds of due structure AOC can have so that the association can support counties all over Oregon according to what wealth they have. It's an ongoing effort. It's really complicated. If you love numbers, if you're one of those kinds of people, I'm happy to talk more with you. But I want to appreciate all of the wealth that we have and hope that we honor it and enjoy it and employ it for good cause for our people and our places. That's my report, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner Thompson. Commissioner Webb.
I wanted to mention that as our citizen commented tonight about a comment that I made at a previous commission meeting. There's a great irony in that because I was rather joking at the fact that we have a number of places that people go to drink in Astoria, and several of them are related to the veterans community. I'm very sorry that anybody was offended. I'm a Gold Star widow. Put that in your pipe and smoke it. Every man with my last name in the United States is a veteran. My father was a Coast Guard officer. I was raised in the Coast Guard. I have 5 direct graduates in a straight line who fought 3 wars and graduated from the Naval Academy. So I'm sorry that anybody was offended. I really am. I'm very sorry. I apologized for the remark. I said it in jest. And I'm sorry it wasn't taken that way. I think if anybody in this room can be sympathetic to veterans, it would be the fact that the man I thought I was going to spend the rest of my life with 50 years ago was blown out of the sky over Vietnam. So my apologies. Okay.
Thank you, Commissioner Webb. Commissioner Banks?
I just wanting to honor the moment for you guys here today, listening. I think all of us here, sitting up here, respect everything, every sacrifice you've made for our country and for us. We wouldn't have the opportunities that we have today without you. So I'm speaking for myself as someone who appreciates everything that you do and everything you have done. And speaking to every veteran in the room, including county manager. But I appreciate your service. So that being said, pretty uneventful at Northwest Senior and Disability Services. We had a lovely update. We are below budget, which is amazing considering the current federal funding situation. And so it's just nice to be below budget. For any government entity, it's just nice right now to be below budget. They are not going to be impacted for any major budget cuts moving forward, to our knowledge. And so it was nice to know that Northwest Senior and Disability Services is going forth right now and all of the services that it provides. Fairgrounds and the Fair Board had a lovely conversation that I missed most of just due to some electronic snafus, and that was what led to the conversation of hoping to hear about the strategic plan in the future. But for all, purposes, they seem to be off to a great start. And from what I could hear on the meeting, they were asking some wonderful questions. And I loved the comparisons to other like counties of our size and demographic. And so hopefully their strategic planning process is fruitful. I look forward to hearing the results of that. Beyond that, I've just been really glad that session is over and that we were able to have the wins that we had. and having more flexibility in funding for the transient lodging tax, just having flexibility in that funding is going to mean so much for us. And so I'm appreciative of that. That being said, that's it for me.
All right, thank you, Commissioner Banks. Commissioner Wakua. Thank you, Chair. Boy, all right. I will say I'm also indebted to your services. Thank you very much. We couldn't be here without you. I know the toll it takes to be involved. I have best friends that deal with the psychological fallout of it. They deal with the healthcare aspect of it, like the challenges having to be in a rural area with it. In healthcare, I've been an advocate for patients. I know everything that goes into it. I've not been in that seat myself, but that doesn't minimize it. I appreciate you all, and thank you for your service. My update has to do with the Public Safety Coordinating Council. We met last week with Kelly, and I felt like it was a good meeting. We actually covered a lot of material. We talked about the Justice Reinvestment Program, and there was an update to that. Essentially, Clatsop County gets $900,000 per biennium for the behavioral health, and some of the money goes into the jail for mental health. Some of it goes into the deflection program. We talked about the updates to the deflection program. There's, I think, been about 100 people that have been offered, and 30 have graduated, if my notes are correct. There were wins with that, and then I think there's some challenges that have been noted with it. One of the challenges being that there is some inconsistent use of the deflection program by some law enforcement agencies, and so they're trying to look at how they can better have that implemented at the point of contact, because the downstream effect means that we end up reducing the cost of that person going through detention and all the implications that come with that. So they're talking about a QR code that would be available to register that person in the deflection program at that point of contact, and when appropriate, would be good for collecting information and getting the ball rolling. Judge Peterson updated that we lost a defense attorney, but that person has been replaced, and so we're back up to par there. What else? We had updates from Lieutenant Hasenkamp from the OSP. So at the last coordinating council, we talked about them going to 24/7 coverage, which was a big thing for OSP. Unfortunately, they did have a one separation, and so 3 days out of the week, they're down to 22 hours now. Not a huge difference, but it did leave us shy of that 24/7 coverage. Talked about the upcoming Seaside Volleyball and the regatta. They're going to be pushing for a high visibility enforcement unit, so just presence. And for us in this county, it's a big thing. We want to feel like we're supported with law enforcement, so I think that's good, and we're excited about that. He did mention, and I could be wrong, but I think he said out of the 363 troopers, Clatsop County actually holds two high achievements, which one of our troopers ranked #1 for school bus violations out of all the troopers, and one ranked #5 on DUI offenses. So they're out there, they're doing their job, and they're making our county safer. Get an update from CBH. In the last 7 months, they've lost 14 FTEs, and we don't probably anticipate that changing in the other direction, and we probably see future losses as well. Yeah.
Is that tied to funding or just location? Or was there?
It didn't really go into it that I recall. It's money, yeah, so, yeah. What else? We heard from the sheriff, and he spoke that, so Clatsop County, unfortunately, has one of the highest incidents of ODs, relatively compared to any other county its size. And the sheriff said that starting in May, they're actually going to be dedicating a deputy to a detective position to start cracking down on the drug dealers.
they know a lot about this information that's out there, but have not had the resources to be able to counter it. And so starting in May, we should be able to start seeing a decline in that, which should help with those OD numbers. And yeah, I think that was basically it from it. I have Property Appeals Board next week, so I'll report back when able, or I might have to report to you since I'll be missing the next meeting, but that's all I have.
Sounds good. Yeah, thank you, Commissioner Waku. Appreciate the update. And again, thank you for everyone being here this evening. I was able to stop by the Veterans Breakfast last Thursday. Man, that's a great turnout. There's probably 60 veterans there. And, you know, Roxelle was there. I appreciate the work with veterans and suicide prevention. That's extremely important. And I'm glad that, you know, with the VSO coming on, I think it'll be an opportunity to talk more about the advisory council when we get those two people on staff and the administrative assistant, see what will work best. But appreciate the suggestions and thanks for being here. I was at the levy sponsors meeting with the Corps of Engineers in St. Helens earlier today. This is the first one that they've had that was this format, and it really was a great opportunity to listen to maybe changes in the rehabilitation and inspection program for levies. And it also was an opportunity really for the levy sponsors to get together and kind of share information. I wish FEMA was there because that would be ideal. A lot of the questions actually go right back to what is FEMA, what is their response on accreditation, all of these issues. But we have a really good team in the Portland District for the Corps of Engineers. Jeremy Britton has been there for about 15 years. You've got Caroline Williams, who's been there for about 15, 20 years. So a lot of folks that are pretty seasoned and very accessible when we need help. And of course, we have, you know, 30-some miles of levees in the county, and Warrenton alone has 8-9 miles of levees. All of them need improvements, and all of them are working through the certification process. So we appreciate all that the Corps is doing for outreach, and I think that's going to be the first of many of these annual meetings to get together, or hopefully more than annual. I don't know what's popping. Must be my mic. And then lastly, I know we're going to talk about the all electeds meeting. Is that me? We'll talk about the all electeds meeting, but that's going to be all the rural fire districts, all the local law enforcement about 911 consolidation. So maybe the county manager can go into a little bit. I'll turn it over to you since I'm popping.
Chair Crew, members of the board, I'll talk about that in just a second, Chair. First, we had talked a little bit, there was a question about the fair strategic plan. I just wanted to mention that there will be a survey that is going out in late March. And then there are two open houses scheduled right now. One is April 18th, noon to 2 o'clock p.m. at the fairgrounds, and the other is on May 20th, 5:30 to 7:30 at the fairgrounds. And so there'll be more information on those as well. And we will schedule a work session to have an update.
Could you send an email out when those two items are posted so that communications can be amplified? Sure,
absolutely. Second, we'll be bringing the strategic plan for 2026-27 to your board. It's just a continuation of all the things that we're doing in 2025-26 with a few additions. One of those that we were going to talk about when that comes back to your board was a Veterans Committee. So we can talk about that as part of the strategic plan because it is going to be required to be on the strategic plan and then have it be something that the board allocates time to. And then on on March 17th, just as a reminder, the clerk's office is executing the special election down in Seaside, and so the clerk staff will be working through that on the 17th and beyond. And then the all electeds meeting tomorrow at 5 o'clock. The topic is really on consolidated 911, and it's just a conversation. We're going to have first responders there, the county, the cities, and just having a conversation about what the first responders are experiencing what some of the options are. And if there's a interest of moving the conversation forward, then the cities and the county and the fire districts are willing to have that conversation. But we just want to get everybody talking about the issue. So that's what tomorrow will be. And that is all I have, unless there's any questions.
All right.
So.
Yeah, thank you, County Manager. Looking forward to that discussion. All right. Oh, Commissioner Banks.
I'm just curious, has exploration of costs for the consolidated 911, will that be part of the discussion also, part of the agenda tomorrow?
Well, it won't be really a focus of the agenda tomorrow. So what the cities and the county have been talking about and is really having a conversation with all the governing bodies first. And then if there is a desire to at least continue, is to do our diligence with a working group that can develop the feasibility plan for one of those other options. And then we would have another electeds meeting in the late summer, early fall, and bring the results of that feasibility study back to the electeds group and then continue the conversation. So this isn't a quick process, but I think it's the process that would be necessary if there is a desire to move that forward. So.
Thank you, County Manager. Well, we'll move on to our business items. Certainly welcome to stay, or if you want to exit, you can do it at this time too. So, thanks again for being here.
Thank you.
Yeah. Have a good night. Thanks again, Brad.
Thank you.
All right, public hearing, ordinance 26-05, administrative variance process and modifications to approved applications. Gail Henriksen, our Community Development Director, welcome.
Yes, good evening.
This is the continuation of a public hearing on ordinance 26-05. County Council, may we have the second reading by title only?
This is ordinance number 26-05 in the matter of an ordinance adopting amendments to Article 1 and introductory provisions in Article 2, procedures for land use applications for the Clatsop County Land and Water Development and Use Code to establish an administrative variance process and procedures for amending approval permits and conditions of approval.
Thank you, County Council. And Gail, do we have any additional information?
No, we do not. Thank you.
All right. Clerk of the Board, are there any members of the public signed up to speak remotely? All right. Are there any members of the public signed up to speak in person? All right. Anyone here would like to provide testimony? All right. We'll go ahead and close the public hearing on this at this time, and we have a suggested motion to adopt.
I move to adopt ordinance 2605 as presented.
I'll second.
Moved and seconded to adopt ordinance 26-05 as presented. All those in favor signify with an aye. Aye. All those opposed? Okay, motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Gail. All right, so before we begin the discussion on agenda item 8, I would like to publicly announce that I have an actual conflict of interest. So the nature of the conflict is that the proposed county land that we're going to be discussing here is surrounded by land that is owned by my family. We're currently under a sale agreement with North Coast Industrial LLC. So in accordance with ORS 244.120, I will refrain from any further discussion, debate, or vote on this matter, and I will turn it over to Vice Chair Bangs to lead the discussion on the agenda item.
Excellent.
All yours.
Excellent. Moving to agenda item number 8, consider an offer on county-owned property and to be presented by Assistant County Manager Monica Steele.
Thank you.
29, sorry.
Thank you, Vice Chair Bangs, Commissioner, again, Assistant County Manager Monica Steele. What you have before you this evening is an offer on a private sale. This is allowable because the value of the property is under $15,000. This is an offer that's being made by North Coast Industrial LLC in the amount of $980, which is a value of $7,000 per acre, and it's 0.14 acres that they will be purchasing. The assessed value of the property is $762. The area that surrounds this 0.14 acres is owned by a separate party, and North Coast Industrial is also acquiring that property. So this property would sit in the middle of everything else that they would own. And so that's part of the reason why the county is also, not tied to this property for any reason. After any proceeds that the county receives, after the payment is made, the proceeds that are received, the county will keep for our administrative costs, and anything that exceeds that would be turned over, as well as turned over to the taxing districts, and anything that exceeds that, per the new House bill, will be turned over to the Department of Treasury, for claims of surplus, new process. And so anything that exceeds the surplus value after we've recouped all of our costs would get turned over to surplus property.
Okay. Any questions or discussion? Commissioner Thompson.
Thank you, Vice Chair. Well, I appreciate that the chair has called up the ethical stance and recused himself. I'm curious, is there any possibility of anybody else interested in this property? Could the county see more money from somebody else if we did something else with it? Is that at all a consideration?
Well, this county has been available for purchase by anybody who would want to acquire it. I can't speak to the value that the property would have, since it would essentially be landlocked by all of the other properties surrounding it. So I don't know that there would be value to anybody else being interested in acquiring it.
Follow up, if I may. We've done everything that is prudent or necessary or advisable in terms of any kind of efforts to get money for county taxpayers. We've already done that. Is that accurate?
Well, the property has been available for purchase from anybody who would like to acquire the county surplus lands that we have. I can't say that we've advertised it through a realtor or anything like that, but this is surplus land that the county has had in our inventory that, should somebody be interested in purchasing it, they have the opportunity. But again, it's currently landlocked by a private owner right now, and that private owner is looking at selling to North Coast Industrial. And so North Coast Industrial would then own all the surrounding property. And so the value to anybody else would be very minimal, because they wouldn't be able to utilize the property.
Thank you. I just want to reassure everybody that we're doing the right thing and there's no self-dealing or hanky-panky. Thanks for answering those questions.
County Manager.
Vice Chair Banks, members of the board, this property has been discussed for some time as part of a mitigation that is related to the North Coast Business Park development and some work that's going on with DSL to get permits. And so this was one of the challenges of developing on the North Coast, is that there's a lot of wetlands and a lot of wetlands regulations. And so this property just happens to be a county-owned small parcel that's in the middle of this larger mitigation property. And so it has been available. We haven't marketed it per se any more than any county property. But it's a very, it's a very typical transaction, and there's nothing, to assuage Commissioner Thompson's concerns, there's nothing out of the ordinary.
Thank you, County Manager. So unless there's any additional questions, staff is asking that the board adopt the resolution in order by accepting the offer and authorizing the chair or vice chair to sign the deed.
Any other discussion?
I don't do.
Motion?
I'll motion to adopt the resolution in order by accepting the offer and authorize the chair to sign the deed.
So motion to adopt the resolution in order by accepting the offer and authorize the vice chair to sign the deed.
Sorry, yes. Vice chair, sorry.
The second?
Since I didn't get to make my comment, I will second the motion.
Oh, I
I apologize.
I can redact that. Go ahead.
No, that's okay. I second the motion.
Okay, it has been moved and seconded to adopt the resolution in order by accepting the offer and authorize the vice chair to sign the deed. All those in favor signify with an aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Want me to
Does
grab the chair?
somebody want to go find chair? Where did he go?
He's out there.
We're just on the last item, sir.
Welcome back. Passing the gavel back to you for item number 9.
Item 9, adopt proposed updated fiscal year 25-26 fee schedule for Clatsop County to be implemented March 12th, 2026. Andrew Sullivan, Finance Director, welcome.
Thank you, Chair. Good evening, Commissioners. So this item is in relation to the second reading of ordinance 2026-05, which was read earlier this evening, to account for the two new fees that the county land use planning staff proposed. Pending board approval, the new fees would take effect March 12th. So we're coming to your board this evening to formally adopt the fees into the fee schedule. Happy to take any questions.
All right, any questions? Okay, are we ready for a motion?
I move that the board adopt the proposed fee schedule to be implemented effective March 12th, 2026 as presented.
I'll second.
Moved and seconded that the board adopt the proposed fee schedule to be implemented effective March 12th, 2026 as presented. All those in favor signify with an aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay, motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you, Andrew.
Thank you.
All right, anything for the good of the order? We are adjourned. Have a good rest of your evening.